Hello. We are back in business. I just have a question. Do you guys miss each other when we miss a week?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. I miss you guys.
Gosh, don't tell us how you feel.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh no, I miss you guys. I definitely miss you guys. I automatically started feeling better. I was highly stressed coming into this call and this time. And as soon as we started talking, I really literally felt that stress lifted. So no, I definitely miss y'all.
Same. I was exhausted, utterly exhausted. And then I came on and I got a new energy.
Aww, y'all so sweet.
It's mindful.
I'm
it's
streaming to
demure.
Instagram, just so you know.
Me too.
Oh, good. Hi, Patty's Instagram. Hi, Nasima's Instagram. If you guys would like to hop over to YouTube.
How do y'all do that? How do you stream? Look, y'all gotta teach me. Technology is not my friend.
It's really not that hard, but the Kaylani walked us through it like one time, and so then I got it after that.
Yeah, we'll catch you up, Jade. We'll catch you up. Well, we missed you guys. Welcome back, our loyal audience that taps in every week. We appreciate you. Thank you for your flexibility. About a month ago, technology just didn't love us, cut us off early. Last week, when you're sick, you're sick. You got to do what you got to do, right? Had to miss last week, but we're back. Everyone is healthy and in good spirits. So thank you guys for rocking with us and showing back up. It has been a very really interesting week. So there's been a lot of things going on because, one, Jade and I are planning an event in Dallas. So we've been talking definitely a lot more than usual, getting stuff done. Really excited about that. That event stressed me out. And and I'll tell you why. Because there are these moments of like imposter syndrome that creeps in, and I don't deal too much with imposter syndrome anymore. But we're doing an event about development. And I'm like, who am I? Throw an event about development. And then you got to just remind yourself who you are. But there's a lot going on. We've got events going on. The Wire community is growing crazy. Patty, you're going crazy. I'm getting your emails, your announcements left and right. You've had news on news on news on news. Nasima, I got something to talk to you about. Did you see that Navy Fed announced that they're going to be charging daily interest on their credit cards?
Oh, that's great. Well, okay. Yeah.
That's a real thing. So lots and lots to talk about, lots and lots to go that's been going on. But more than anything, I felt an extreme sense of relaxation when I realized, you know what, I don't need anyone's permission to be great. And so in light of bringing real life experiences to this show, I had to remind myself that I don't need permission. You don't need permission, sis. I don't need to seek anyone's approval. The people that are for you are for you. And I'm really seeing my tribe, surround me now, especially in this very last week through being really sick. So anyway, missed you guys. Glad we're here. We're talking about not needing anyone's approval. So before we really, really jump into that, Patty, I want to direct something toward you. I know we don't have time for like a full market update, but I remember there was a point in time where when we first started the Truth Behind the Headlines webinar, you were really kind of questioning, should I do this? Who am I? Who wants to hear what I have to say? Who is even going to listen to me? All of those things. So real quick, how have you powered through becoming one of the most followed voices in mortgage and finance?
I wish I was one of the most followed. Sometimes I see the content that these guys are posting with hundreds of thousands of followers, and I wonder why anyone follows them to begin with. And I always get their reel sent to me, and I'm like, people are like, is this true? Is this true? Is this true? I'm like, you really found a compelling way to say nothing in about 22 seconds. Congratulations. So thank you for that. You always lift me up in that way. It's not necessarily the truth. I think most people that hear me speak don't know how nervous and sick I feel when I have to speak in front of people. And I don't think it was, I don't think it was until you forced me to do the Truth Behind the Headlines webinar and also forced me to write a newsletter. It's not just imposter syndrome. It's the fact that it's that thought of who do you think you are? I have to add this. When I was working out and I was walking on my way into the gym today, I thought of something, and I thought the difference between greatness is those of us that can talk ourselves out of the voice that talks us out of taking action. And I was like, how do I say that in a more simple way? And I've been thinking about it all day, because as I'm walking and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm going to do 500 million. I'm going to be the first woman to hit 1 billion. These are the first times I'm actually speaking this stuff out loud. And I'm saying I'm having a new vision, and I'm actually having this deep feeling of remorse and grief about breaking up with the habits I have today that are going to get me there. So in terms of starting a webinar and doing things that you don't feel like you're capable of doing, I've never felt comfortable talking in front of people. I didn't even want to do this, but I'm just not going to say no to Kelani, you know? And so the idea is that it is true, as cliche as it is, that you have to be able to grapple with the inner thoughts that you have that talk you out of whatever it is that you need to do to get to the next level. It's those of us that win that inner battle that actually get something of benefit. Last week, I took one tip that I got from Twitter. I was just randomly scrolling, and someone had said, when you get an open, like you might say, I sent out this email, nobody opened my emails, you know, I don't want to do a newsletter anymore, nobody cares. Well, on the first go around, I noticed that my opens closed. My opens were low. They were only around 4,100. So what happened is I took the advice that I read about resending it to the people that hadn't opened it, right? And I was afraid of doing that. I was afraid, like, oh my God, I'm not trying to get on these people's nerves. They didn't want to open that shit in the first place. So why would they want to open it now? Right? But I did. And guess what? 3,400 of them opened it. And I ended up having over 7,800 people open up my email in 1 week. And actually, you know, they don't count that unless you open it. So you might have just glanced, you might have read, but they opened it, right? And it worked. So when you can talk yourself out of the inner demon, when you can shut that guy up and say, no, I'm going to do it anyway. It's okay if I fail. It's okay if I'm not ready. I'm going to do it anyway. You might have much bigger results than you could have ever imagined. But it does take winning that inner battle. I hope that answered your question. I'm sorry if it didn't.
I love that you said that. I think it's like analysis paralysis that we go through a lot of times, like just the overthinking of like, what would people say? What would people do? And I think some of the most successful people on the planet are the ones who, like, I mean, I used to think that you should wait until you're not afraid to do something. But to me, the most successful people on the planet are the ones that do it afraid, like what you did, like starting a newsletter, going ahead and sending that second email, all those things. Like you did it even while you were probably cringing. Yeah. Right before we got on the show today, I read this meme that says, nobody's going to be with you or talk to you more than yourself. So watch what you say, right? Mm-hmm. I think we all need to like be aware of that. It's the thing of, when we overthink and we get stuck, normally what's on the other side of that fear is the key. That's the key, the answer, right? And, you know, I mean, like, first of all, the fact that you said only 4,100 people open your email, I'm over here like, I thought you were going to say, right.
First of all, most people don't have email lists over a couple hundred. So
no, for real, seriously, which is a huge testament, because there was once upon a time where you probably did have 4 emails. I think we forget when we had 4 emails. I think we forget when we only had 20 emails. Like nobody knew who we were. Like I can literally remember starting in radio and I'm driving the van and people always thought I was the girlfriend of the talent. And I'm like, no, I work here. Like seriously, I got on the station logo shirt. Like, what are y'all talking about? And so just remembering that once upon a time, where we are now was once our wildest dreams, right?
Yes. Which is also, I think we let perfectionism stop us. And like I've said before, perfectionism is a form of procrastination, but also people ain't really checking for you like that. Like they might be thinking about you for like 2 seconds, but they are not really internalizing things the way that you're thinking. So like when you're overthinking, like resending that email, like, and like, oh, well, they didn't want to read it at first. Like they probably didn't see it. They was probably opening an email. Like me, I get 50 million emails. And if people do not resend me emails, and I always thank people for doing this, I wouldn't see half of the emails because the amount of emails that I get. Also, like I can open an email, think I'm about to respond to it, forget to respond to it because my baby slaps the phone out of my hand, knocks me sideways. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking I'm responding to it, and then I get it again, and it's telling me, "Oh, you didn't respond to this. Oh, let me go respond to it." So it's not like it's not as deep as you think.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say that's really reassuring to hear, because even like the whole point of this was not needing permission, right? You have this someone pushing you, you got to go do this. Someone pushed me, I did it, and then I saw this tip, and I always be like, how often do you follow through? Like you saw something, you're like, oh man, that's so good, that's a word. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that tip, but you just sit on it. You know, and I'm not built like that. I'm going to go do it. Right. And when someone scares me, I'm going to go face that fear and pressure. So it is the inner dialogue, though, because it doesn't mean that I'm not scared. And it doesn't mean that I'm not suffering through the idea as to whether or not I'm capable. And it doesn't mean that I'm not sitting in my room crying sometimes because I have to juggle the fact that I'm a mom on top of running a business and hiring new people and trying to grow and do all these things at the same time. So you're not alone.
Isn't it interesting though? Because like just a few weeks ago, we were talking about lead generation and all that kind of stuff, and you do that stuff in your sleep. So when it comes to like lead gen, you're like, of course you follow up. Like that's the name of the game. Like you're not gonna get the check, you're not gonna get the client, you're not gonna get the yes unless you follow up. And then all of a sudden you get put in this position of an email, and it's like, oh shoot, what if I actually follow up like I do again? You get what I'm saying? It's so interesting how we can compartmentalize.
Yeah.
And something in one realm seems so easy to us, but in this other realm, it seems like the freaking end of the world sometimes, which is crazy. But when you're talking about not needing permission, I think that you said it earlier, Patty. You were like, I really love the fact that I'm not going to say no to Kaylani. She kind of pushed me to do a couple of these things. I think we don't talk enough about how our tribe really, really validates us and makes us realize that we don't need permission, or they give us permission. And sometimes we do need that permission from the people that are closest to us. I literally can remember when I first left radio, like all of a sudden I'm getting booked for all these things. Like I'm hosting, I'm emceeing, like I'm doing all this. And I'm like, man, I'm in these streets. Like I'm out here, people didn't, whatever. And about 6 months after I left the station, the radio station, I literally was exhausted. And I'm like, why am I so tired? I went to my friend's house, and she's one of those straight shooter, whatever, and I'm like, I'm happy because I'm still making money and people like, are still like showing me some love or whatever, but I'm exhausted and I can't really explain. It's not physical, it's more mental. And she literally looked me in my face and she said, it's because you're chasing relevancy. And it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Oh, damn.
It was like one of those gut punches, but at the same time, I was so appreciative that she loved me enough to tell me that truth. And I had to sit on it for like 30 seconds. And I'm like, dang, sis, you're right. Because I was needing the permission of outside people to feel like I was still somebody, because I no longer had this huge brand behind me. I was just kind of out here on my own. And instead of like doing like this self-check of like, does this event fit my brand? Is this where I'm trying to go? Like, is this giving me forward momentum? I was just taking anything because I had something to prove, if I'm being honest. I wanted to show people that I'm still working, I'm still out here just because of this, And when she told me I was chasing relevancy, she actually in that moment gave me permission to rest. And she doesn't even realize she did that. Like, it was permission for me to say, I don't need to say yes to everything. I can rest, and then I can really trust God to bring me what he wants for me. So
I feel like that's deep. Do you guys think that women, do we learn that we, for lack of better terms, need permission young? I remember, if I think about this feeling of needing that kind of permission or the cosign or the validation, like I can think back to being really, really young and not wanting to disappoint my parents.
Mhm.
And I had to literally go to therapy and unlearn some of this stuff because, our parents are imperfect people raising us. I have the best parents in the world. They're imperfect humans. They have trauma, right? I'm one generation away from abuse and poverty. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a real thing. And so they're raising us through those lenses and trying to protect us from all of the things that are probably kind of inflicting trauma along that way. And I remember having a revelation literally like 2 years ago, maybe in therapy, where I was like, oh crap, I felt when I was young, I had to earn love, right? And I needed that permission and I needed that approval. That, mind you, is not true at all. That's something that I created through trauma, right? I never had to earn love from my parents. However, I was in situations with high expectations that if I didn't perform, I would disappoint or I would be in trouble or whatever. And so that stuck with me through young adulthood, right? Growing up and realizing, like, even making choices about what I wanted to study, right? I dropped out of college to do music. And a lot of people don't know. I mean, I'm pretty well educated and people still are like, wait, what? You did what? Listen, full scholarships. Okay. I got checks back. I had so many scholarships, right? My mom was so disappointed. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made. I didn't want to be in school. I was too entrepreneurial. I was too creative. I was like, that just isn't where I wanted to be. And so I remember, that disappointment. And I remember specifically my dad not even reacting terribly. He was just like, okay, well, what are you going to do then? And I was like, oh shit, it's up for me to decide, what I should study, where I should go, what music I wanted to do, then what type of music I wanted to do. And then, you know what? I don't like this game of music because it's nasty and these men are nasty and they're judgmental and they all want to have sex with me. I don't want to do this anymore, right? And then going through all of those emotions and then saying, okay, I want to be in real estate. I want to establish myself here and giving myself permission to actually know what I think I know. And for me, I had to really, I think, working through it through therapy, but also having a company of my own forced me to know that, okay, no, I've got everything that I need. I don't need a cosign from anyone. I don't need permission from anyone. The vision is clear. I'm the daughter of the Most High. He gave me permission. I'm good. Right. And that has taken years and years to learn. So I say all that to say, do you guys think as women we learned that at an early age? And then what was that like magic moment for you guys where you realized, like, you know what? No, at the end of the day, I can only answer to myself for the decisions that I've made in my life. If I'm taking radical self-responsibility and making the changes that I know I need to make, right, then it's really on me. So did any of you guys have that aha moment too, or is that just me?
I mean, I think it is gendered, like I think it shows, like when you look at job applications, know that we women feel like we have to be 100% qualified for a job before we apply to it, versus a man, if he has like 30% of the
Sure.
qualifications, he's going to apply for it. And then we have to remember that a job application is an employer's wish list, right? So you don't have to think about that, but that's how it shows up in different scenarios. So I think it can be gendered in that sense. Um, and the moment that I really felt like I didn't need permission was when I finally realized that retirement wasn't like an age, or we didn't have to work until the end of our lives, that we can figure out what number we wanted to reach and then strive to reach that and do that. But that was the first time I actually like shifted that perspective of like having to check the boxes, having to climb that hierarchy, having to ask for permission in certain jobs. That's what definitely changed things in my life.
Mm-hmm. Did becoming a mom change that too?
Becoming a mom was just a whole different dynamic, like in so many different ways. But also, it's a little bit scary because you're just like, well, I got to get my stuff together because I'm responsible for somebody else's life. Becoming a mom definitely made me become more financially intentional. It's what caused me to create my platform, because I was like, yo, I'm not just responsible for myself. If something were to happen to me, I need to make sure this little girl is taken care of. So that's what that did for me. Not so much asking for permission, but that set me on my path to discover that I didn't need to ask for permission.
Kalani, you put in the show notes that people who seek external validation are more prone to depression. So transitioning to that, I think it's a really important topic because, I think there's a lot of layers to that, right? And it's probably a good idea to figure out why maybe we can have a discussion about why people who seek external validation are more prone to depression. But I mean, without being a doctor, without being educated in the field, without having read any articles about it, I can tell you my guess would be that, if you're not able to balance the noise internally, and you have to hear it from someone else, and you're not going to hear it from someone else every day. This morning, my youngest daughter I was on the phone early this morning. She walked in front of me, stomping her feet because she wanted me to see that she looked cute today. And she wanted me to tell her she looked cute today. And she's a baby, so I'm going to keep doing that. She's 14 years old. So of course I need to give that to her at that age. But it made me think about that. I'm like, yeah, because she wanted that attention. And in children, we learned that whether they're going to want attention, whether it's positive or negative, right? So if they're getting in trouble to get your attention, that's why they're getting in trouble. If they're getting good grades to get your attention, that's why they're getting good grades, right? Wherever you're feeding that validation, that behavior grows. And so I thought it was interesting that people who seek that external validation more regularly are dealing with depression, because you can't constantly get that dopamine hit from external sources. There's got to be some internal process. And this is a very uneducated viewpoint on this, but I'd love to hear any stats you want to share on that, because I do think that when it comes to permission, that's relative to the circumstances, but you've got to learn to pave your own way, and you've got to learn to talk yourself out of the conversation internally that talks you out of taking action. You have to be stronger than the voice or the anchors that are pulling you down in order to be able to go against the grain. You don't have to be stronger if you stayed in school, right? You have to be stronger than that voice if you had a vision for yourself and you were willing to give up the security for the promise of a future. So you don't have to have that strong inner voice if you're not going against the grain. But if you want to go against the grain, you have to be stronger than the anchors that are pulling you back. And then realizing that playing this game of having external validation, if you're playing, I retweeted this from an extremely successful venture capitalist and philosopher that I admire deeply. He said that if you're playing the game for applause, then you're playing the wrong game. Right? Everyone knows that if you're not truly passionate or in love with the path that you're taking, it's going to be really, really hard to be consistent.
I'm not a doctor either, and I just want to second what you're saying about struggling with like depression because of outside validation. One of my old, like a spiritual father to me, told me once, he said, never believe your press, never read your press, never believe your press. And I'm like, what does that mean? It's because when it comes to people's opinions about you, it's never going to be 100%. It's never going to be enough. So if you read your press and it's positive and people are like clapping for you and like feeding your ego, then you're going to feed more into that because you want more of that. But if people are shooting you with negativity, then you're going to change who you authentically are to please those people. So whether it's positive or negative, you're constantly trying to fight this battle of fulfilling what everybody else thinks that you should be, and you can never do that. And you're constantly in this yo-yo space, and nobody never wants to feel like it's just not enough, right? And so when you're being pulled like that, that will cause anxiety, that will cause depression, because there's always going to be a voice that is not pleased, whether you're doing great or whether you're doing terrible. And so silencing that noise is so important, and it's so difficult, even as an adult, to block out the noise. So I can only imagine what kids go through nowadays and constantly trying to fit in. I mean, shoot, we tried to fit in when we were younger to a certain extent, but there was also this thing where we could go home and we didn't have to deal with anything until 8:30, 8 o'clock in the morning when we went back to school, right? Now it's a constant feeding. And then here we are as adults, also that voice of comparison. You're online and you're thinking, wow, she cooks better than me. Wow, look at her body. Wow, she has so much more money. Wow, she's younger than me and she's so much further along. And it's just, and nobody's telling you this. It's just that inner, like, and then you start feeling depressed, like, dang, like, and you really out here killing it. But compared to other people, you might not be. So yeah.
Really out here killing it. What if the voice, though, is not in your head? What if the voice is your parents or family members, or, like, if you guys think back I don't think I would have guessed that this is what I would be doing with my, like, I knew I would be impactful. I knew I knew I would touch people, not necessarily in this way. Patty, I don't know if you knew when you were young, you were going to be a $1 billion producer manifesting, right? And so on and so forth down the line, right? So like when you're younger and you're really on your path of self-discovery, also had to unlearn, right? Telling yourself what you should or shouldn't do. My therapist says, don't should all over yourself. But what if that voice is, when you're younger, is coming from people that think that they know what's best for you? Like, right. And we've talked about this plenty of times. My dad can't fathom being an entrepreneur. Doesn't even know what how I even, like, he sees me working and he's like, you're just obsessed with your thing. And I'm like, damn right. And I like it that way, but he's not cut that way. So to him, his path for me would have been, higher education. I'd get a secondary, degree. I'd have and Jade, you've talked about that, like with your parents, right? Your dad telling you what you should do. So what if that voice, anybody who's listening who thinks they should be on a path, but has a very deep desire to pursue another passion, pursue another calling, how do you guys, or how did you ever manage that, should on your life that everybody else imposes? Because if your tribe isn't supporting you to be who you want to be or what you want to be, how do you silence that noise? That's the challenge, I think, if we take it all the way back. Any advice?
That noise doesn't stop. It's people right now in your life that are still telling you stuff as adults, and it never stops. So
but now I'm like, hey, this is my business. Go mind your own. When I was 18, I wasn't having that kind of conversation, right? Like, how do you?
I think when you're 18 or when you're younger trying to figure it out, you do have to weigh your odds, right? Because mom and dad might be helping you. Like, that's the reality of life. So it's like, if you choose to go against mom or dad, are you also willing, or are you willing to choose those consequences that may come with it? However, on the flip side, if you choose what you want to do, it could actually work out. So I think that, we often have to, like, I try to, like, have this mentality of, like, I don't think you should live with regrets. Like, I think that you should try things. I think that you should go for it, because it's like we say, well, what if it doesn't? Then I got to go back crawling home to mom and dad. Yeah, sometimes you got to eat dirt. You got to go back and be like, I was wrong. You were right. Let me try it your way. On the flip side of that, if it does work out, then mom and daddy going to be pulling up to the table, clapping for you and saying, I knew all along you'd be successful. Try that. So, I mean, don't you think that sometimes people just have to bet on themselves? But I mean, I don't want to say that and then you're telling people to go against what their parents want them, you know what I mean? But
right.
I mean, I think that's often a projection thing.
It is. I mean, I'd like to speak on this as a parent and also as a child who grew up here as a first generation Iranian with immigrant parents. Most immigrant folks from the Middle East will tell you that their parents will think of you as a complete loser if you don't become a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Yes. Those are the three categories. If you're not a doctor, you're not a lawyer, you're not an engineer, you have disappointed and brought shame to the family, right? Yeah. And so what I learned from that was that in my setting, it's not that I wasn't book smart. I was a straight A student. I had a lot of speed and quick learning. I was bored in the classroom a lot of times. By the time I was in high school, I had gone to 5 different high schools. I had more credits than I needed to graduate. I took an independent course and I graduated outside of high school, right? I was always a little bit away from the norm and the tradition. A lot of that had to do with how we moved around, but I didn't have a lot of feeling of security and stability, which I think is extremely important, right? Mm-hmm. But my parents continuously reminded me that I was, a loser and on a bad path. So I don't think it gets more intimate than your parents at that time, because you're not following what they believe. Now, these parents left a country for freedom, to have opportunity, and their kids that they're raising here are taking that opportunity for granted. You don't get to understand that perspective until you're an adult. Mm-hmm. So it's going to take time. But even as a child, as a very young child, I didn't follow the rules, right? I wasn't wired that way. So I think for people like my oldest daughter that are wired to follow rules, but also have a spark for creativity and other things in them, as a parent, you do have to nurture that and allow them to explore what they're good at. We learn at a certain age. So, when you're a child, you do things as a child. When you grow up, you put away childish things, and you have to act from a different level of perspective and understanding. So if you are a young person, because the spirit of the show is to tell you what we wish we knew, right? If you're a young person, and even if you have the parents that you depend on for food and water and shelter telling you that your path is wrong, and you have a clear vision about what it is that you want to do, you have to be able to have the confidence to listen to that, right? And then you have to be really smart, right? So it's like that idea of the guy who's 42 who's still trying to rap, and he's like, I'm one hit away. You're telling him like, bro, it's over for you. Hang it up. Hang up the mic. I mean, you got to get a job at Home Depot. You got bills to pay, right? So only you know where you're at in that path. But also from a parent standpoint, I think that it's okay to give guidance, but if you trust in your ability to parent and you trust in your child's ability to absorb that information, then you have to be able to trust in their path and give them a little bit more freedom. We all come from, I think we're all going to raise our children or are raising our children much different than how we were raised. So if you are a young person listening to this and you are fighting the people closest to you, such as your parents, your siblings, your best friends, who are telling you, choose stability. Don't take the risk. Choose the stability. Don't go out the grid. You know what? Go for the nursing degree, because if at least you'll know you have a job. And you're like, maybe I want to study marketing because I believe that I can be the next person that puts a Kendall Jenner with a Pepsi can, right? You have to be able to believe in your vision and your work ethic enough to be able to counter the noises that are closest to you and fight through that. That's what I did. And it wasn't always easy.
Patty, has your success changed your parents' vantage point?
Well, my success, I think so. Obviously, my mom is really thankful. She's always my plus one. But what really, to answer that question, the first thought that comes to my mind is that I know my dad died with peace of mind, knowing that I could take care of my mom. And I thank God every day for that feeling. We didn't always have the best relationship. He was very busy when we were kids. But I have to say that knowing that my dad died, knowing that I could take care of the household, the business, that everything that needed to be taken care of, things I took care of prior to his passing, and also now my mom not having to worry about anything, that makes me really proud.
Yeah. It should. The chat I don't know what's going on in the chat. Why y'all laughing so much? But chat going crazy right now. Chat's going crazy right now. I think I really like how, we're bringing up accountability. So indirectly, right? Like being real with ourselves about where we really are. At 18, well, I'll just use this as an example. I've got my baby brother's 20, and he is so smart, and he's intelligent, he's smart. He has the discipline of a worm. I don't even know. He can't focus to save his little life, right? He can't find his
like a worm discipline. I didn't know where you were going with that. So yeah.
There are things he knows. He knows I want to make a lot of money. He knows he's meant for something greater. Can't discipline himself to focus on anything, right? Can't find that motivation. But I'm like, dude, you're a 20-year-old boy. I don't want to call him a boy, but you're a baby, right? You're really trying to figure this out. And to him, I would say, you know what? It's probably wise if you listen to our dad and just take that advice, so that at least in the next few years, you will have accomplished something, done something. However, I'm like, you're really lucky that you get to choose. You get to choose what path you want to take. They're willing to support you. Our parents are willing to support you in anything that you want to do. So there are those people now, we talk about this in Wire all the time, things that people are actually living through and experiencing, having to learn to give themselves permission for finally going against the grain for once, listening to themselves for once. But you got to get to a point, you have to take accountability and get to a point where you are just all in on the thing. I'm all in on my business, my movement, my vision. I'm all in. I know exactly where I'm going. I know exactly where I'm headed, to a point where I couldn't get up and not make progress even for a day, because I'm so sold out on what I know I'm supposed to be doing. And so if anyone listening hears us and is like, okay, they're, giving me the green light to say, hey, this is my life. Let me take control of it how I want. Yes. And If you're not all in, stop wasting everybody's time. Don't be one of those people that are out here asking for advice, asking to pick my brain, or asking for mentorship if you're not willing to show up. Don't be one of those people that are out here not actually fully going for it. Like, you actually have to work. And if you're not willing to work, you probably should. And you just should.
Should not.
Right? Yeah. That's what I need to say about that. Anyway. Okay, chat was going crazy. There was something else in the show notes that said individuals who practice self-validation report higher levels of life satisfaction and well-being. So my question now becomes, as we kind of round out the hour, how have you guys learned to give yourself self-validation? And not only our decisions that we make, but even in relationships, or, you can't force people to see things your way. You can't force people to do things the way you want to do them. We're in the people business at the end of the day. You can't do all things alone. So when you're not getting that response that you want, when you're not getting your way, when things, you're victim to the self comparison, what does that conversation actually sound like in your head when you're giving yourself that validation? Anybody got any tips for that?
Patty, you're really good at, you know how to zen out, and I think I'm still working on that, but I love your perspective on this, because you really have worked hard. And I think this is probably one of the reasons why you are so successful.
Yeah. Going back to the conversation I had myself on the way to the gym. If you know me, you know that, I've been working on getting fit as much as possible for the longest time. I struggle with that. I don't know if it's stress related, hormones, life, whatever. And so I struggle with that a lot. And so I have on my walk to the gym, when I'm at the gym and I'm hitting my 4th rep on the 4th round of this exercise with heavy weights, and I'm ready to cry, I literally can hear David Goggins' voice in my head. I think what you consume matters in the answer of this conversation. When I was walking 3.5 miles the other day, and I was listening to a book called The Psychology of Money. I posted about that on my stories. Yeah. The Psychology of Money is probably one of the most simple and profound books that exist, because it really helps you see this idea of imposter syndrome and tackle it. Why is that? Because you have a gentleman there's an example in the book about a gentleman who, at the time, we're talking in early 40s, 50s, he hits it big on the stock market, makes over $3.2 billion, enough to set his family what would have been $3.2 billion today. He sets up his family for the ultimate amount of success for multiple decades to come. And then on the other end in New York, so that guy's in California, the other guy in New York at the same time bets wrong on the same day, has the biggest loss of his life, and within 2 days killed himself, right? You've heard that many times when people take big losses. So how deep failure could be, how embarrassing it could be to the point where you want to take your own life, right? Now, about 7 years later, because the gentleman who won the most amount of money, that 3.2 million, the day he shorted the stock market and hit it big, he continued to bet big, and then he lost big. And then within 7 years or 10 years or whatever it was, he took so many losses, he ended up losing everything. And then he went missing for 2 days, came back, killed himself, died. Okay. So what is it that this mindset question is so much bigger than how do you talk yourself out of a bad moment to get yourself to go here? Because when you are putting an immense amount of pressure on yourself and a significant amount of you're defining yourself through this idea of success that maybe you haven't even written, then really it's hard to battle those demons. It's hard to battle the voices that fight against you. So what you consume is important. I'm listening to thoughts and stories like this all the time. I'm listening to David Goggins. You Can't Hurt Me is probably one of the most powerful books anybody could listen to. I recommend the audio versus the book. I had both, because in the audio, at the end of the chapters, he's interviewed and he gives real-time commentary on the things that he talked about. You're talking about someone who's extremely overweight, lazy, can't move, who has to wake up at 3 a.m. and go out barefoot in the snow and I don't know what they do, but all kind of crazy stuff, right? And walking and doing what he did, and understanding that the battle between, I'm hearing no in my head, but I've got to push my body to get up anyway. And I have mastered that. When I was younger, I want to say somewhere around 19 years old, I went to an event with Tony Robbins called Unleash the Power Within. That's the event where you saw Oprah walking on fire. So I walked on the fires and I did the fire thing. First of all, it's probably one of the most insane experiences because you literally just walked on fire and did not burn. If you go walking on fire and you don't burn, there's not a lot of things you're not going to be able to focus on mentally and snap yourself out of, because you're going to understand the power of your brilliant mind. Now, in that session, it was a 3-day seminar. I learned more than I can ever put into words, and I was way too young to grasp it. And over the years, it has benefited me. What it teaches me is to get out of the state that I'm in and into a peak state. So I'm walking on the way to the gym and I'm telling myself, man, I'm really not feeling it today. But I can snap out of that and focus and shift the state that I'm in by moving my body. You see, before we started, Kalani was talking to me backstage and I was like, I'm really stressed out. I'm not in the mood today. But as soon as the camera comes on, I'm ready to go. I can shift my state at any given moment to perform. The final note I want to make on this, which is something that is, I know we say a lot and there's never enough time to really go into detail, but hopefully you take some of these nuggets and study it further. We often criticize people for being performative online. I've talked about this a lot. We're saying, why are you so performative? You need to be more real. People want something that's so real. I'm here to tell you, you don't need to be your realest self online, okay? You can be performative. Because athletes, actors, and performers do not sit there and wing it every time they're performing something, right? There's a strategy. If you are a business person and you're not looking to be the next, whatever famous TikTok star, nobody cares about what you look like when you wake up in the morning and how your breath smells and what you're brushing your teeth with, right? People want to understand that you are a reputable, consistent voice in the business community that they can trust. So don't hesitate on practicing. So you are walking into a situation without preparation, without practice, and you're trying to perform. How are you going to do a good job? Right? You want confidence? Practice. You want to walk into the listing appointment and win somebody's favor over? How many times did you practice the listing appointment with your mom, your sister, your cousin, your neighbor, right? Why is it that you think that you could just show up and wing it and be successful every single day? And now you're wondering why you don't have the confidence to go out and get the deal. Practice. Take it seriously. When you're watching the Olympics and you see what you see, for 4 years, every single time that athlete woke up, they thought about that moment. I practiced and I performed and I practiced and I performed and I didn't eat this and I ate that for 4 years just to have 5 minutes on the world stage.
Not even 10 seconds.
10 seconds. So what makes you think that you could step into the arena and make 6 figures or 7 figures or 8 figures without practice, without discipline? I promise you're not going to struggle with getting through mental thoughts if you're well practiced, if you're consuming the right things, if you're regurgitating the right words, if you're looking in the mirror and you're being honest with yourself and you are performing. It is not I'm telling you, the person who's doing business with you doesn't care about the toothbrush you're using. They don't care about what you look like when you wake up. They want to know that they can trust you and that you're consistent. So practice.
So it's funny you say that. I just got the opportunity, second year in a row, to interview Chamillionaire. And, he's a big tech investor now. Everybody knew him as a rapper back when we were younger. Now this man is worth so much money. He really doesn't come out and speak very much. And he spoke on a similar subject, skill versus talent. And he was saying, what's the difference between skill and talent? He was like, some people wake up, you're naturally talented. Think about all these guys in the NBA that are just naturally talented. But why did Kobe Bryant stand out? Because of the skill. But his skill was practice. You know what I mean? He was the first in the gym and the last to leave. He was naturally talented, but like how we view him and how we view other NBA players is completely different, because some people are only betting on talent. And skill does take discipline. Skill does take sacrifice. Skill actually hurts a lot more. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
so I love that you said that. It's we really got to put in this work, you guys, and we just have to go for it, and we have to get out of our own heads. But you know what? We also have to give ourselves grace. Have your moments. Have your freaking moment. If you don't feel good, Patty, you had your moment earlier, but guess what? When it's time to perform, because you've been practicing for so freaking long, you were ready to show up when the time came. You could have been sitting on this thing just like this the whole day. This is I feel.
And I never do.
You never do. And that's the whole thing. Like, we really remember skill versus talent. And I also love how you talked about what we're consuming. One of my mentors told me at one time, think about, how do I put this properly? Think about all the holes in your body. You have, and they're gates, right? Think about the clean holes in your body, y'all, for real. Like, like your eyes, your ears, you get what I'm saying? Like, we have to be so cognizant of what we allow to enter in these gates, because they're literally these thoughts, these words, these sounds, everything is like taking over our body. And I was actually looking up while you were talking, Patty. I'm actually going to order that audio book of You Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah, that's a powerful one. When you really get to know David Goggins and you see how real that man is and how sincere he is, it's a master class in exactly what Kelani asked about, turning that voice inside out. And other than that, of course, you can watch some videos about Unleash the Power Within, but it's much better in person. But David Goggins is everything.
Like, I remember years ago, I was in a horrible relationship. This is when I was younger, right? And I was like, oh, he was cheating on me. And so, you know how we are, ladies. And this is like a small, silly example. But, you know, when you think somebody's cheating on you, like, that's all you can think about all day long, right? And then you want to go digging, you want to find out. And I remember at that time, I'm going to age myself, but Maury Povich used to always do these cheating and who's your baby daddy? And you had Jerry Springer. It was always mess. And I was really struggling with trust in that relationship at that time. And somebody told me, like, why do you keep watching all these shows that are talking about cheating and talking about, you can never heal if you're constantly putting this negativity in your head. Like, you have to cut it off. You're allowing this information, whether you think it's affecting you or not, it is literally going inside of you, and you're not going to heal from it. So, I mean, he still was trash. Don't get it twisted. But once I cut that stuff off.
No, I literally, like, the other day, I had to make TikTok, like, I had to select the option that said, don't show me content like this anymore. Have y'all seen those TikToks where they're like the voice of, like, reading Reddit stories? And there will be, like, something random going on in the background of the video. And then there's, like, someone reading a Reddit story about,
yes, you know, about crazy drama that happened.
Yes. I'm like, I get sucked into these Reddit stories. Something about those crazy TikToks. I had to tell them, I was like, I'm in too deep. Don't show these to me anymore. Like, I had to fix my algorithm for that. So yeah, that's a really good point. That's a good point. So if I'm hearing what I think I heard, when confronted with these thoughts, right, really evaluate what the lesson in that and how to learn and pivot from that. I think framing failure is also really important, and rushing to failure is also really important. I have completely reframed failure in my brain, right? If something doesn't work out now, and I don't know if I've ever experienced huge failures or huge losses. I mean, I guess maybe if somebody else was me, they might say that they have, but I've really reframed how I look at failure. And if I'm in a moment where I'm really feeling defeated and depressed and down and all of these things about what I should have done, all of that, yeah, maybe, but we can't unwind that. We can't go back in time. I don't have a time machine to fix those things. So the question is what lesson and value did you extract from that? And how does that help you improve? These people that we aspire to be like, and that we see online and in the media and on TV, who appear to have, you know, amassed all of this success. Like, to your point about Kobe, he was in the gym. He wasn't when we shooting in the gym. He was in the yes, exactly. You guys remember when he ruptured his Achilles shot his free throws anyway and still walked off the court. That took him out for well over a season to rehab and came back and still was the greatest, right? So like these moments are actually pivotal defining moments about your character to say, okay, what does this say about me if I let myself get stuck in this junk? Because at the end of the day, you're the most, to Nasima's point, you're the most impacted. Don't nobody give a shit about what you got going on. That perspective of what people think about your failure is that perspective, right? Can you live with yourself? And can you wake up the next day, look yourself in the mirror and say, you know, I'm proud about how I handled that. I learned what I needed to learn from that. I applied what I needed to apply from that and move on. So
don't let nobody come for Nasima because she's gonna post about 3 videos and be like right in Zay's face, like, yes.
I was on her Instagram earlier and I was like, yo, Nasima does not give a shit. She gonna post what she like. How did you adopt that mindset? Have you always been that way, Nasima, or is that like a recent? Like,
no, I've just always been like that. I mean, because I observed at an early age, like you can do everything perfectly and somebody's gonna hate on you. So what difference does it make? Like, do what you want to do. At the end of the day, the only person that you have to answer to is yourself. And for me, I live by this philosophy: as long as I'm a good person, I'm doing good in the world, can't nobody tell me nothing. Like, I'm not trying to hurt nobody. I'm not out here, doing attacking people. Like, I'm out here having fun. I'm spreading knowledge. Like, if you can't get with that, if you're offended by it, that's a personal issue. It doesn't have anything to do with me.
That's right. My mama put a quote in the chat.
Yes, I like that. Your mama's quote. That's it.
Yes. And I was actually going to say it. And she beat me to it. What people think about me is none of my business.
And if it's not said to me, it's unsaid.
Right. 100%.
If you can't say it to my face, boo-boo.
You can tell that was one of those kids is like, you ain't say it to my face.
And to my teachers. It wasn't even to my peers. I mean, to my teachers, like, and what?
Oh no! Don't listen to that, kids. Don't listen to her.
No, but I always showed up in class. I was always smart. So, like, if you come for me, like, be ready because, like, why are you coming at me?
Yeah,
right.
And for anybody watching, I'd like for you to take that same sentiment when dealing with me. If you come for me, be ready.
Oh, that little evil laugh, that was scary.
Y'all are so crazy. Well, this has been so good, baby. So thankful. Lots of put into this show. The trend that I'm noticing is, in spite of all of the external factors, we're responsible for ourselves, right? You are responsible for how you react. You're responsible for how you grow. Radical self-responsibility is the way that I'm on, right? This life isn't going to change if I don't do something, right? Faith without works is dead. I can have all the faith in the world, but if I'm not working, it's not going to happen, right? So that radical self-responsibility, you do not need permission, sis. Okay, you do not need anybody's approval. Run with that vision and go all in, right? Work hard, fail. It's okay. Fail again and fail again and fail again until you get it right, because that failure is just a part of the journey. So thank you, ladies, for dropping your knowledge and your experience with everybody on this call today. I'm really appreciative to y'all. Oh my gosh, Andrea Branch. I got a big shout out to Wire members. Ecosystem Builder, you've been in the chat. This is really, really good. I see T. Marie, a lot of our regulars popping in here today. Apostle, thank you so much. Next week when we talk, I already know what we're going to talk about, and I'm going to give people a little bit of a teaser. We talked about this in our Wire group, and we have really debunked or reframed this idea of being in the trenches, right? And that came from Apostle Sean Mark's sermon about 2 weeks ago, and it stuck with me so much that I wanted to, I already know where we're going with this next week. So we're going to redefine what it means to actually be in the trenches, the protection that's provided in the trenches, coming out of that trench even bigger, better, and all of those things. I think the limiting beliefs that we place on ourselves really keep us stuck a lot of the time. So I'm just excited that we've gotten to places to prove to people nah, this is not just rhetoric. This is real, right? If you apply yourself, you discipline yourself, you go after whatever is on your heart. Like, you can succeed and you will succeed. So thank you guys for being so inspirational. I love y'all. I'm all mushy. I missed y'all last week. I was sick last week. You know, I'm happy. I'm happy now.
Does anybody have anything coming up soon? Like, you know, like any events? I know, like, you were planning something in Dallas. So Dallas, August 31st and 1st. Anybody want to
anyone that might still be listening, I will say this. I do have a private event that I'm holding in San Francisco, California with over 150 people RSVP'd. And the whole thing about that I want you to know, the cap was 150, but we got over 150. I haven't posted that once on social media. So if you're dealing with thoughts about social media playing an intricate role in your growth, and that you have to always be on and always be present and always be seen to have that sort of success, you don't. I just want you to know that. So that is a private event. The guest list is closed, but I just thought, since you asked, I'll let y'all know.
And you know why that happens? It's because it's called authentic connection. And that is where we have split, where social media, we have taken the human out of humanity. And that's why people are showing up, because you actually genuinely connected to people. We have to put the soul back in the things that we do. And that's why they pulling up. I'm pulling up.
I can't wait.
We're gonna be there. Ordered that dress yesterday. I'm gonna make you guess which one I got, Patty. You have to wait until you see it.
I know you're gonna look fire. You're gonna look so good. It's gonna be bomb. I'm so glad to see you guys there.
Oh, as soon as you said that, my feet started hurting. I forgot I gotta wear
heels. I ordered some comfy heels too. I was like, if it's anything like last year, we are gonna be dancing literally all night. So nice. It's gonna be so fun. September 6th and 7th, Diversified Development Summit in Dallas, Texas. DiversifiedDevelopmentSummit.com. Jade and I are putting on this event together. We've brought together some of the brightest and brilliant minority developers from across the country, where we are talking about how to source deals, how to fund deals, how to underwrite deals. You'll walk away with some knowledge, some free game, and can't say it's free. There's some tickets, but lots and lots of games, so you can leave there and actually implement, execute, and start to get into building and development. So if anybody's interested in that, we got some of the best speakers. That's DiversifiedDevelopmentSummit.com. Naseema, you got anything to announce besides the fact that I'm gonna see you in a couple weeks?
No, I mean, I am bringing back my free investing webinars, because I'm tired of these people speculating the market and thinking that they're traders and don't know anything about investing. So I'm gonna put people back on game for free. So look out for that starting in September. Free weekly webinars. So there's that.
Yay! I would love to get the Wire community there. So as soon as you put up a registration link, please share it with me. I'll make sure that our Wire ladies know all about that. Jade, we announced our event. I'm gonna make sure. Anything else? Good to go? All right, ladies, thank you so much. Anybody who's still on with us, anyone on Instagram that is watching right now, please head over to YouTube. That's What She Said Show. Like, subscribe, comment, all of those things. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. Love you all.
Bye.
Bye.